Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in Tuesday night Pokemon action here at Impact Gaming Center. We are ready to go. Folks, it's already been a week. It's been a big weekend for Pokemon, and we are ready to rock and roll this evening. Hope you're having a great day thus far. Let's dive into our first round of the night. Daniel on our left-hand side. We have Avery on the right-hand side. Welcome in, everybody. Impact Gaming Center. We do Pokemon every Tuesday night here. We always have a great crowd, and looking forward to seeing what kind of matchups we have tonight.
All right. Good luck. I'm first.
All right, here we go. Now, it's gonna be interesting for all of us there, folks, because I didn't actually get the deck list from either of these players, so we're gonna be learning on the fly what each player is playing this evening, but we'll get there. All right, looks like Avery on the right-hand side of our screen is currently playing Buddy Poffin, one of the best cards in Pokemon. Of course, the card that you really want to start out with. Pretty much almost any deck that you can play here in Pokemon, because it gets those basic Pokemon out on the bench, and I know as a Goldingo player, that it's so important for that deck. Of course, Dragapult, Raging Bolt, Gardevoir, you name it. Buddy Poffin is the card you want to play on your first turn.
And then it'll be legal for.
Man, what a huge weekend it's been for Pokemon. Of course, Worlds this past weekend. We'll talk about that coming up a little bit later, about how awesome Worlds was. Man, just an amazing time to be a Pokemon fan. All right, looks like our friend over here on the right-hand side is playing Charizard. And the dream is alive. He gets two Buddy Poffins out on that first turn, and of course that's what you want to have.
And
my assumption is he's playing the Dark Charizard EX. We'll get, of course, we'll figure that out once the decks get set up a little bit more here. But yeah, guys, I'm looking forward to a great night of Pokemon, and I'm interested to see tonight if we have any, off the cuff type of decks or not. A lot of times here at League, we'll see some off the cuff decks, which is always a good time. So I am curious to see if that'll happen here this evening. Of course, last week we had some interesting decks on stream with the Diplin, and I actually, not gonna lie, I went home and I played it on PTCGO. I always like the off kilter decks a little bit, and so last week we got to see that, and then I went home immediately and started playing it. So good stuff there. All right, Buddy Poffin is down. Looks like he does get the Duskull down. He has one Duskull and two Charmanders down on the field there. And I believe that's a Blissey in the active. Or is that Cleffa? That might be a Cleffa there. Yeah, no, that's a Cleffa. All right, passes over now to Daniel on the left-hand side, and here we go. All right, an interesting deck here. Let's see what he pulls out here tonight.
It's like because of the happy switch.
One thing I love about Pokemon, especially in the climate right now, is you definitely can try different things. A lot of times, I've noticed in the Pokemon card game, like, man, several years ago now, but it was really hard to come out with a non-meta deck and do well with it in tournaments. But it seems like now there's plenty of cards to play and things to put together that it's definitely a possibility to do so. So I'm interested to see how things turn out here.
Blissey with Monkey Dory.
So several Monkey Dories down. We have four on his side. Blissey. Looks like there will be two of those coming out at some point here. And I'm really interested to see how what Daniel does with this deck. All right, passes turn. Ultra Ball now from Avery. Squawkabilly down there. Looks like an Arvin as well. Yeah, we'll go down and let's see what Avery searches for here. It does look like he's playing the, obviously, the Charizard deck, which, you know, that's a deck that a lot of people may overlook, but definitely a deck that is still very powerful. Of course, we're seeing the Mega Charizard coming out here in the next set, which is going to be absolutely fantastic. We'll talk about the new set coming up a little bit later on the show tonight. But interested to see if people are going to tech that card in or make that like the sole focal point of the deck. I am interested to see if that becomes a thing moving forward. All right, the Charizard is on board. He gets those 2 energy down on the Charizard. And so here we go. If you don't know what the Charizard EX does, it has that ability when you play this Pokemon from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon during your turn. You may search your deck for up to 3 basic fire energy cards and attach them to your Pokemon in any way you like and then shuffle the deck. So he gets the 2 there on the Charizard. Of course, it does 180 damage plus 30 for each prize card your opponent has taken. With a combination of that Dusclops and Dusknoir, a very powerful combination, even going down in prizes. All right, takes a knockout there, and let's see. Daniel now will promote, and we will see what Daniel has on his side of the board now. He does have 4 Monkey Dories out, so moving damage around will be a thing moving forward here in this matchup. This is an interesting matchup, too. You know, as someone who doesn't play a lot of spread decks and of the sort, it's always interesting to me how these spread decks and damage-moving decks and things like that work against such huge Pokemon like Charizard. It definitely takes a lot of math. It definitely takes a lot of math. All right, we're actually gonna try to zoom in here a little bit. Let's move the camera and try to get in on the battlefield a little bit more to make it a little bit easier to see these cards for us. All right, there we go. See, I'm learning new tricks every week, folks. We're learning new tricks every week. Figured out today, hey, we can zoom in the camera, and that, you know, we want to get as close to the action as possible. All right, the Iono is played on Daniel's side of the board. Of course, will be shuffled and put at the bottom of a given deck. Let's see what Daniel pulls out here with this fresh 6 cards in his hand. I would say to a certain extent, the Charizard deck is very straightforward. Pretty much knowing exactly what it's going to do. The Monkey Dory, not necessarily as much. Maybe a little bit guessing here and there with it. But nonetheless, still interesting. Hope you're having a great Tuesday night. Thanks for joining us here at Impact on Twitch. Love having you here. We'll be here every Tuesday night, about 6 o'clock. All right, so Daniel plays down the Ultra Ball now. And let's see what he gets out with the Ultra Ball. We have a packed house tonight for Pokemon. Of course, you can have a chance at being on stream as well by joining us here on Tuesday nights. We get started, like I said, about 6 o'clock. And we'd love to have you here at Impact Gaming Center. We're located in Fairview Heights, Illinois. All right, switches it in and does, I believe, 180 damage there to the Charizard. And now switching over to Avery's side.
Buddy Poppin'.
All right, looks like he'll play a 3rd Buddy Poffin here. So if you don't know what that Blissey EX card does, it has Happy Switch. Once during your turn, you may move a basic energy from one of your Pokemon to another.
Quick search.
So interested to see here if Avery decides to get these Dusclops going here. Of course, if you're not familiar with Dusclops, the Cursed Blast ability, once during your turn, you may put 5 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon. If you use the ability, the Pokemon is knocked out. So it's a very interesting kind of trade-off. You get to put some damage on the board, but your Pokemon is knocked out and your opponent does get to take a prize card for it, which again buffs up the damage from the Charizard EX. So, yeah, such an interesting combination. Had a chance to watch Worlds this weekend. Some interesting decks throughout, even the juniors and the seniors and the masters. A lot of really cool and interesting decks played throughout the whole thing. Of course, I mean, we expected obviously a lot of familiar decks being played. You know, Dragon Bolt, Dusknoir, Raging Bolt, of course, Charizard. My favorite deck, Goldingo. Had some Goldingos in there in the top 8 as well. I believe one made it to the top 8 there in the Masters division. All right, Charmeleon comes down.
50, and you take a prize card.
Curse Blast happens. He'll do 50 damage. Where did he put... Okay, there we go. So 50 damage on the active.
60 for knockout.
And then he'll do enough damage to take the knockout there. So let's try to adjust accordingly here. There we go. All right, so let's see if Daniel has an answer against that last turn. I'm interested to see what what this deck does exactly. Obviously, we know what Monkey Dory does, but I'm curious to see how it fares, because it makes you wonder. Then I'm guessing the Blissey is the main attacker, obviously for the deck, and it's interesting to see the combination of these two cards work in tandem. All right, so the Earthen Vessel comes down. He discards that Professor's Research and will grab, it looks like, 2 Psychic Energy from the Earthen Vessel. Of course, Avery now having 180 damage on that Charizard, and the Charizard only with 330 HP, so that's something he's going to have to keep an eye on moving forward once turn is passed. All right, so Avery grabs the Evolution. Okay, so he plays Stretcher. Or grab another Chansey. Okay, and then play the Evolution card on the Monkey Dory. Places down the energy. He'll use this to get the Blissies on the board, I would assume, with this Evolution.
Turbo Energize.
Okay.
Yeah, Turbo Energize, there we go. Putting the energy down there. And passes turn over to Avery. So I don't believe that actually was the Evolution card that I was thinking of. It was the Turbo Energize. There we go. All right, so that puts the energy down on the board now, the Chaunceys. All right, let's see how Avery responds. Okay, so he does get that rare candy going. And we'll put the Dusknoir out. This is going to be a big turn. Boss's orders, Dusknoir's that. Takes a knockout, so that's a big knockout. So basically what he's doing here is taking these knockouts so that Daniel just can't get set up. Yeah, I'm sitting here thinking, seeing what the next play is for Daniel. Is that a roaring?
It's kind of better than
He said what?
Is that a roaring moon? Yeah, I believe so. All right, Poke Gear will come out into play now. Checking the top 7 cards for a supporter card. Yeah, I think the path here for Daniel, it's gonna be a sketchy one because it seems Avery has what he wants. He's gonna have another Charizard set up possibly next turn. Oh, does bring up the Charmeleon now into the active position. The Charizard will now go back on the bench.
I retreat, attack.
And there we go. All right, that's game. Plays the air balloon, and there you have it.
I don't think it would matter either way.
Man, what a match! That was quick and sudden, but hey, that's Pokemon for you. And Charizard just kind of wrecking over Blissey there. The problem I think there for Daniel was the fact that he just couldn't get set up. And that's obviously you got to get set up. He also, Avery had those buddy Poffins, those 2 at the beginning. That was also huge for him as well. And yeah, so there you go, folks. Round 1 is complete. Avery takes the win over Daniel in our first round matchup this evening. And yeah, I hope you're having a great night. Thanks for joining us here on Impact Gaming. Live on Twitch this evening, and will be so every Tuesday. So thanks for joining us. Man, a big weekend as we talked about prior to tonight's, of course, Worlds this past weekend. What a crazy time for Pokemon fans. We got to see some really cool and crazy matchups. It was a lot of fun to watch this year. It was a lot of fun. It's always interesting to see what people come up with and what the big deck is. Of course, this year, Gardevoir taking the win in the Masters division. And you know, it's not that I didn't expect Gardevoir to win, because you can't deny Gardevoir by any means, but with all these other crazy decks out there right now, it was definitely a surprise that Gardevoir was able to knock all of them down. So either way, what a great weekend for Pokemon. All right, we'll continue with round 2 of Tuesday Night Pokemon here at Impact Gaming Center. We'll get that underway in just a bit, so stay with us, everybody. Thanks for joining us here on this Tuesday night.
I like for going.
It is nice. Yeah, you just like, all right, well, you don't want to take prizes?
What?